And Sam, we're here, and we're joined with the man, the myth, the legend, Tedy Bruschi, older brother of mine, 3-time Super Bowl champ, led the NCAA at defensive line, I tell you, at the University of Arizona, in sacks.
Arizona legend.
Yeah. Proves his versatility by changing from the defensive line to becoming one of the smartest middle linebackers. We've all seen the legendary plays in the snow game where he does the snow angel with the pick six. We've all seen it all. We see him on ESPN, looking handsome as ever.
Very handsome, man.
What's up, guys? What's up? Thanks for
Tedy.
having me.
Two California kids who are 3-time Patriot champions just on separate ends right here.
That's right. We sort of got them all represented here. And Jules, it's always great talking to you, buddy. I mean, we've developed a great relationship over the years, man. I'm glad to be talking to you.
I appreciate you coming on, Tedy. And we have to get it off right away. The kind of legend that Tedy is. So I'm a rookie, and the first time I get in the building, what they do in the Patriots building is they test you. So they have all the stars and all these big play moments in the team room, and they always have to. Bill will get up there and ask you, like, "Who's this? Who's that? Who's this? Oh, that's Logan Mankins. Oh, that's Russ. Oh, that's Tedy Bruschi." And so we get there. So you're automatically, they build this huge picture for. There's like 5 Patriots that were on the team that were like part of this huge dynasty that was like the best franchise going into before they won the 6, 7, or whatever, 4, 5, 6. And Tedy was there, and he was just this guy that it was like surreal to have in there. So the first time I interact with Tedy, I see him in the training room. I think he was reading a book, and he had like 2 trainers working on him. And we go out for a special teams period, and we line up against each other, and I had to do this stab thing on him. And we go down, they blow the whistle, and I stab him, and I touch him. And Tedy, with the intensity I told you about, looks at me, and he says, "Hey, rookie, don't you ever fucking touch me again."
Yeah.
And then, so I had to go with him the next time. So the very next time, I had to stab the air. I was stabbing the air because I had to show the coaches I knew the technique. I had to show them that I was taking in the classroom work.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there with Tedy trying to stab the air, but it was fucking nuts. And that's the intensity, because when we entered this podcast right away, you could see Tedy give the eye.
Oh, and he sneered at me pre-taping, seeing I'm wearing an Eli Manning jersey. I'm like, this is the 18-1. I got to show out.
Yeah, I knew we were going to discuss that season, and I guess I'm already just a little irritated knowing it's coming. But it's over the years I've come to accept that season. But Jules, that story you're talking about, like we've had this conversation, how that it was full circle for me, because when I was a rookie in almost the same situation, it wasn't special teams, but it was offense and defense. We used to have a tight end by the name of Ben Coates, and he was a great tight end. And I was a rookie trying to do the same thing on him, trying to put my hands on him because that's what you're coached to do and all that. And the line from Ben to me was, as we're walking back in between reps, after that rep, he said, "Hey, rookie, you ever touch me again like that, I'll break your fucking arm." And and I looked at him like, I said, I guess this is what it is now. So I knew never to touch Ben Coates like that again. So I gave you a little bit of the Ben Coates treatment there.
And you said, someday that'll be me, talking to a younger person.
And about 12 years later, 12, 13 years later, yeah. Me and Jules.
The crazy thing is, though, he wasn't being an asshole or anything. He was just the vet. He was getting his work in. He was doing his techniques, and that's just how it is. It's changed now, Tedy. Nowadays, it's changed. You can't even call a rookie anymore. You got to call him the R word, because they're all entitled. And what do you think about this new generation? Do you think you could be a veteran player in this day and age with how these guys are going?
I sensed the transition. I think 08, 09 was my last training camp of how it was getting to be. And I still think it's doable. I don't think you can be the old school, get off my lawn type of old man type of, this is the way it is, you respect me. it's much different now to where it's almost you have to earn their respect first, and then you can give them the hard love after that. But if you show them right off the bat that you're going to be an asshole and this is the way it's going to be, rookie, and all this and all that, they may go into their shell a little bit. So it's a little bit different dealing with today's athlete. I like to think I could adapt and still find a way to if you got to establish trust first, that's fine. That's just the way it is. But once it gets to the point where games are now coming, it's not OTAs, it's not minicamp, it's no preseason anymore, man. It's serious. Hopefully you've developed that relationship now where you can have sort of those serious conversations, but definitely it's sort of backwards now than it was before, to where you earn in respect rather than respect should be given. So that's the main transition that veteran players have to deal with.
And that's a leader type answer right there. And it's crazy because when I got in the locker room, he was probably thinking of us the same way we think, and vice versa. That's just the older guy who becomes wise. If you play in the league a while, you see things. But we do have to talk about this 2007 season, 18-1. Now, let's put a little context into this. This was the year after they go to the 2006 AFC Championship. They're up, 21-3 at halftime?
Yeah.
21-3 against the Colts, Peyton Manning and the Colts. They owned the Colts throughout Peyton Manning's career. Peyton could never beat the Patriots. They go into the Dome. It's a little different circumstance. They come back. They had a great year. They lose that game. Then they go on. They sign Wes Welker. They sign Randy Moss. Now, after that year, and I know how a losing season is in New England, how shitty of an offseason it is because you have it in the back of your throat all year and you have to see all the clips and all the bullshit. What's the mindset going in after you have some of these key additions, the shitty loss after, the year before? Like, did you guys definitely felt something was special was coming, but what was the mindset? Because you were one of the big leaders. McGinnis, or everyone, all the big guys.
Yeah, it was, not until that week one opening win versus the Jets that, you sort of had an eye opening of, holy smoke. I mean, Randy Moss, because Moss had a little bit of a tweak of his hamstring when he got there in 2007. So you didn't get to see a lot in training camp. So as the week one opener started to come, he started to come back a little bit and give you a little taste, but he just exploded in the week one matchup. Everyone remembers the deep over where Tom just threw it all the way to the left side, where he outran the safety in the corner to the pylon on the left side, the offensive left side. And that's when we on the defensive side of the ball are looking around on the bench like we got something here. So after that, seeing him in combination with Welker after that game, that's when we really knew that our offense could be explosive, which is very different than what it used to be in similar championship years of 01, 03, and 04. Brady was coming into his own. Special teams and defense were the theme. And then, of course, Brady, this is when you got the full, I guess, quote unquote, Tom Brady coming in the 07 season where, you saw tastes of it in 04, but in 07, it was like, this guy can't be stopped.
You saw the transition from Tom really becoming that type of Tom Brady. What did that look like?
The first time I really noticed that there was a different Tom was probably in the Super Bowl versus the Carolina Panthers. Now, 01, Tom was, just don't turn the ball over, give it to Kevin Falk, give it a little check down, and, just once in a while, break your tendencies, throw it deep and all that stuff. Let the defense, running game, and special teams do what they do. I think Tom was only responsible for, 2 touchdowns in the entire playoffs. He ran for 1 in the snow versus the Raiders, and he threw for 1 in the Super Bowl versus Patton. All the others were Drew Bledsoe touchdown, special teams, and defense. So to see from that all the way to that Carolina that second half where he's making throws left and right because we couldn't stop Carolina in the second half because we were gassed. Delhomme had us figured out, and Tom Brady just ended up picking us up. So that's when you start to see like, all right, he's ready to just take over the team and become MVP type of player, that type of player, all the way to 07 when he's throwing, I think, 50 touchdown passes, and it's just absurd. So to see that growth was incredible. And then see it continue as an analyst was just, I mean, it just hasn't stopped.
There's got to be some stories of like young Tom, like we all know the football, the transition, the this, the that. What's the funny shit about Tommy that we don't know? Like, you know, over what they used to have the bar, the Rack over in Boston. I remember hearing a little. I mean, what are the things that no one knows about old TB? How goofy he is. That, like, I want to hear a young Tommy story. I know you got one.
Yeah, I think people just see him. I don't know. You use the term celebrity quarterback now, and it's what we turned into, and that's great and everything. But I mean, he used to really play the little brother role, the little irritating little brother role, in terms of scout team quarterback, to always talking about what he can do and always talking trash during 2-minute situations. And we just laugh at him because also his voice would get so high and it sounded like a 8-year-old boy just complaining, and also usually still trying to get the team fired up at the same time. It was really comical. And that's how
is that the best quarterback ever, or Jared Kushner?
Well, no, I mean, it's the guys, let's go. The whole voice and all of this is like, oh, look at Tommy trying to fire up the team. It's so cool. You know, that sort of little brother.
That's cute. That's cute, Tommy.
Cute. I still have that sort of picture in my mind of him, but I definitely witnessed the transition. But I still see him, I mean, as, you know, that kid that still came up when nobody thought he could.
It's crazy because I saw a completely different version of that. You know, I got in and he was 34 by that time. And I saw the developing of the celebrity quarterback, and then I became that little annoying brother that used to piss him off.
Yeah.
So that's where that transitioned in. You know what I mean? Now, going into this game, you guys, I remember hearing all we heard about was humble pie when that streak started going.
Yeah.
You know, you guys started winning ball games, and it wasn't like you guys were beating teams like, 14-16 or whatever. You guys were blowing the socks off people. Offense explosive, defense playing like one and turning the ball over in opportunistic moments. Like, just an overall fucking great football team. Going into the Super Bowl, you guys, what was it, 12.5 points, 12.5 point favor?
Yeah.
Like, are you going into this thing? I know the mindset that Bill, he's probably cutting you down the whole week. You guys are not this, you guys aren't that. But, like, deep down on the team, and I know the leadership of the team, but there's got to be something that clicked in that, like, we're gonna blow these fools out. Yeah, they got close to us in week 17. Yeah, they're on their cute little run. They got their run game and a really good defense. We're the fucking 07 Pats. We're the best team in the history of the game. Like, that ever seep into your mind?
It was hard not to. I think around starting week 14, when we're on the verge of being 16-0 in the regular season, that's when you really start to think that we just can't be beat, fellas. We just got to finish. And the real pressure was getting to the Super Bowl because, fellas, I mean, if we finish the season 16-0 and you lose in the divisional round or you lose in the championship game, you're a laughing stock. So you at least got to get to the Super Bowl, definitely. So you get there and it's like, guys, all we got to do is finish. All right, we know this team. We've played them before. We just got to finish the job and do it again. And that was the whole theme of the entire year, why Belichick coached us so hard and why we felt like sometimes we didn't even win a game the entire year, is because he sensed what we could become. He knew that, I mean, it was going to be hard for a lot of teams to beat us if we played well, and we did. And yes, going into that, it was a tough, hard-fought game versus the Giants in week 17 to get the 16-0 mark, but we felt confident going in. You know, it was something that we just got to go finish the job, and that's the confidence that we had. I mean, I think about it now and what happened, of course, and losing the game, but, you know, it's just, man, I've just been on both sides of the spectrum to where you're winning Super Bowls when nobody expects you to, and then you're winning Super Bowls when everybody expects you to, and now you're playing the role of everyone thinks you're the best that's ever been. So how do you play that role?
The target.
Yeah, couldn't get it done.
The target on the back. That's what people don't realize. We see that with the Kansas City Chiefs nowadays and all these teams that they go out and they win a Super Bowl and they have these unbelievable teams. But it's almost, it's not easier to win your first. It's just hard to stay at the top because you become America's most wanted. Everyone is circling when they play you. Coaches are getting paid if they beat you. Players are getting paid if they beat you. And that's how a lot of guys think. People don't realize how hard it is when you have that target. Now, the game doesn't go the way you want. And as a professional athlete, when they don't, because I've lost Super Bowls too, you always think as an individual, man, there's 4 or 5 plays I wish I could have fucking had back. Yeah. If I would have done, do you remember any specific of those kind of type plays that like I wish I had this fucking play back? If I would have done that, we could. You never know.
Fourth quarter, the Giants are driving in that last series, and there's a 4th and 1. Junior Seau and I were rotating at the time. He had dime responsibilities. We both were on there. I had nickel and regular responsibilities. Junior was in regular too, but it was a 4th and 1 situation. And I believe it was Hedgecock at fullback and Jacobs was the tailback. And it was a 4th and 1 situation. And it was a lead right at me. And I took on the fullback. And Jacobs was still able to squeak by and like reach over for the first down. I think about that play all the time. I mean, if I would have gotten that stop, could I have sent Seymour from the right side, maybe a rip call, maybe a Louis call to move the entire line? Could I have jumped over Hedgecock, which I've done before, just jump over and sell out rather than taking him on? So yeah, as you can tell, there's a lot of plays individually and a lot of plays team-wise that you think of during that one game, Super Bowl losses, big losses, but especially this one. That 4th and 1. I mean, of course, there's the Harrison play, there's the Asante Samuel drop, there's the Ellis Hobbs all-out blitz for the touchdown to Burris. It's still fresh in my mind.
Beautiful. It's all beautiful. But Tedy, be honest with us. How seriously did you take Eli going into this game?
Shoot, I always respected Eli. I mean, I never saw. I mean, you saw him as goofy, of course, and you knew at times he could throw it into a team meeting, absolutely. And all we had to do at times was just catch it, but we didn't catch it. I mean, did he still, in that play to Tyree, was he running around like a chicken with his head cut off? Absolutely. Did Vrabel have him? Did Jarvis have him? Did Seymour have him? I mean, they're all running at him, and man just throws it up. But that's the Super Bowl, man. You get catches like an Edelman catch, or like you bobble it twice and he catches it 6 inches off the ground. Those type of things. We've been on one side of them, and we've been on the other side of them. And Eli just had a little magic against the Patriots in the Super Bowls.
Yeah, Tedy, you weren't around, but like you said, either the blitz 0 on in the short red to Plaxico.
Yeah.
Short story. I had to hear Randy bitch about that on Friday walkthroughs to Dean Pease for 2 years.
Oh yeah.
You know how Randy is. Hey Dean, you gonna throw out that bullshit blitz 0 again? Lost me my motherfucking ring. You remember?
Yeah. Oh man. And the veterans you have that you sign, it's a great move. I mean, for teams that have won it before to sign players that haven't before. You know what I mean? So you want to win it for Junior. You want to win it for Randy, for Moss. And it's just like, oh, shit, what did we do?
That was that blitz 0. You got drafted by Parcells. You played for Carroll. And then you also played for Bill.
Yeah.
When was the first time you met Bill, and what was your first impression of this guy? He was on the coaching staff, I believe, a little bit, right?
He was
with Parcells.
Yeah. He was a DB's coach. He was a DB's coach, and never heard him at all. He was just coming off the Cleveland. I mean, I wouldn't call it. It's borderline embarrassment. I mean, how that all ended over there with the relocation and how he got ousted and that. So, I mean, he was sort of just licking his wounds and coaching defensive backs. And I never really had a lot of interactions with him during that year in 96. But the one thing I remember is we were in a meeting once, the defensive unit, and all of a sudden Bill spoke up in the defensive unit meeting, which he rarely did. And he spoke up about offensive linemen and how they get out on screens and how the DBs should really play it. And he is dropping F-bombs left and right and these fat asses and all this and all that. I'm like, who is that? I mean, really, who is that? Damn, he's sort of funny, you know? And it was like, oh, that's Belichick, man. I was like, oh, yeah, that's the Cleveland guy. Yeah, you know, so that was my introduction to Bill. I mean, it was like, oh man, yeah, it didn't work out too well in Cleveland. Good to have him, all this stuff. I didn't know about all the New York Giant defensive coordinator days. Our defensive coordinator was Al Groh, you know, and Bill was just sort of, you know, that year after you lose a job and you just accept any positional meeting on a coaching job on a staff, and you just boom, hide behind the scenes, and then that was him. Now, the ironic thing was this. After we lost that Super Bowl in 96, Belichick went around the plane because Parcells, him and Kraft were having problems and Parcells was ousted. And Belichick went around the plane talking to guys, like younger guys. Like he came up to me and talked to me about the season and how, you know, we got a bright future and all that stuff. And he went to various other players like Lawyer Malloy and other guys. And I was like, maybe that's our next head coach. So that was sort of weird on the plane ride back, but that was 1996 Bill Belichick.
So you saw you saw him go from like a crotchety guy who's a grump to, you know, to coddling you guys and then going back to a crotchety grump all in a few years. I mean, that's the Belichick way. I mean, you are like the Patriot way guy that you think of, you know, like when you think of like who set that culture. It's a guy like
he's a founding
Tedy.
cornerstone. It's guys like him, Kevin Falk, Troy Brown, Willie McGinnis.
Yeah,
I mean, Lawyer Malloy.
Yeah,
I didn't get to experience him as much, but there's always that group of Patriot that like they regulate the locker room. You learn as a young player, you either get like them or you're not going to be there.
Yeah, it was great. It was great being there when Bill was also learning to be Bill. You know, and seeing him from where, I mean, I was lucky to have Parcells lay my football foundation. I mean, Pete Carroll wasn't bad. I learned to play linebacker under Pete Carroll, you know, we just weren't used to the whole college type of atmosphere because we had Parcells. Yeah. So it was a little bit different. And Pete learned as a head coach toward his tenure there. But then Belichick comes back in, and then we go, I think it was 5-11 the first year. And he is learning to be a better head coach at the same time as, you know, myself and Vinatieri and a lot of guys are there. Bledsoe's there.
Vrabel.
Yeah. Well, no, Vrabel wasn't
Can't forget
there.
Vrabes.
Yeah, Vrabes came in 2001, the next year.
2001.
Absolutely. So it was good to be there to learn to sculpt what ended up being what it is.
I got to ask you, Tedy, I mean, coming back from a stroke in 2005, winning comeback player of the year, there was a vibe that Boston athletes were just like the toughest dudes because it's like you've got you coming back from a stroke. Paul Pierce gets stabbed a bunch of time and misses like 2 games or something. Yeah. There was something, I mean, what was that like for you? I mean, was there a moment after having the stroke where you're like, is this my career? Is this it?
A lot of moments, man. I mean, something like that. I mean, you hope to have somebody to call. You know what I mean? It's like I was up. So my doctor, I was like, hey, doc, give me the number of the guy that's done this before so I can talk to him and ask him all the questions, like all the questions I got. Like, well, is my brain going to explode? Is my heart going to be okay? Because they put a device in my heart. And he was like, so there's silence on the other line. And I'm like, doc, what's up? He said, Tedy, you'd be the first. And I'm like, shit, let me hang up and call you back and let me rethink this. You know what I mean? So that was the hard part about it, not having, you know, someone to lean on and ask them about it. But, you know, you get to a point where it's like every career has a comeback. I mean, Jules had his too. And it's about 5 years, 10 years down the road, I just knew I would have regretted it if I didn't give it a shot. So, you know, that was my comeback. I mean, it happened to be medical, not physical type of, you know, knee, shoulder, anything like that. But, you know, there's a lot of mental and emotional healing that had to go on too, especially.
That just shows the kind of guy Tedy is, man. Like, he just always proved people wrong. It's fucking, it was a pleasure to, like, be in the same building with him. That's the aura he gave off because of the big play moments, because of the hard work, because of the overcoming of adversity, and it was like, it was insane. It was literally an insane experience, and I only experienced them for camp.
Yeah.
Like,
let me tell you, just my perspective of it was, I don't know what's harder. Okay. What is harder? Is it to establish a championship culture, or maintain it? And that's what, when Jules came in, I mean, that group that maintained the Gronkowskis, the Edelmans, the McCourtys, Hightowers, Mayo was there
Slater.
a little bit. Yeah, Slater, absolutely. To maintain that, I don't know. It's just a great argument to see what's harder, you know. But I really thought it was just as hard. And to see it as an analyst, from the analyst perspective, I thought was super cool. That, I mean, it was so easy to talk about my former team just beating up on everybody and still winning championships, and that was a fun part of my job.
And that's the thing. They set the standard. Like, I can't even count the amount of times you'd be in a fucking team meeting, and Bill, you know how Bill is. He's breaking down film. Look, you guys aren't fucking Tedy, Bruschi. You're no fucking Willie McGinnis. Like, I've coached 1,000 fucking players. Like, we had to hear that until we finally got there, until we finally got one. And then once you got one, then you're like, well, fuck. They got 3. So, like, let's try to keep it going. Let's you know what I mean? It was an inspirational type thing that motivated our team to ultimately set that standard and keep that standard.
Well, we were in college around the same time, Jules and I. So Tedy Bruschi is how you described a beer. You get the shout out in the movie Ted.
Yeah.
I mean, you're immortal in Boston, drinking and sports. How did that feel?
I remember when I saw that clip for the first time. I mean, they're in the movie, and it was like, oh, damn, did he just say that? That was the coolest thing I had ever seen, Wahlberg. So, of course, Wahlberg being a big old Patriots guy, but having the little bear say that, Ted, it was super cool, man. I loved it.
After that, everything kind of changed. 2008. Brady gets hurt. 2009, like,
yeah,
the emotion after that, like, that's got to be the low of. I mean, you experience the ultimate highs, but after that game, like, the emotions, did that deflate? That was just deflating. How did you deal with it? How did you try to move on? Did you move on? Was that it?
Well, first of all, it was good to have a few Super Bowls still in your back pocket, to realize that you've still won a few. That helped. That helped a lot. But it was, man, I mean, you've lost them, Jules. I mean, but to lose the one, I mean, you had won Super Bowls, you win Super Bowls, but this was the Super Bowl we were trying to get. I mean, biggest upset in Super Bowl history. I mean, you got a team that's trying to go undefeated. I mean, you're hearing everything about the Dolphins and all of that stuff during the whole course of the year. Man, it took me a while. It took me a while to get over it, bro. I mean, I still have thoughts about it, and I'll give myself questions in my mind. It's like, would I trade all 3 of those Super Bowls for the one 19-0? Yeah, think about that.
Would you?
Sometimes I answer yes, but most of the times I answer no.
Tedy, let me give you a little Jewish tactic. Why don't you start with 2, and maybe they would take it. You get 2, so then you give them 2 Super Bowls for a 19-0, and then you got 1 in another.
Which one?
A little negotiation with the gods.
Yeah, which one would I give?
The football gods.
Then again, so I mean,
which one do you give up? Do you give up the first Brady? Maybe Brady's not Brady if he doesn't get that first one.
But the first one is the one we broke through. I mean, and then the other 2 were back to back, which I hold on to. Our group going back to back.
I know.
Your group, Jules, never did it.
Did it.
We went up to
never did it, and I that's in the back of my head too, Tedy.
Yeah,
that's in my fucking head too. Don't think I don't think about that. Like, geez, we never went back to back.
Yeah, I think if anything, that 18-1 team, it gives me an incredible perspective. I mean, geez, I mean, to have all the success that we had, and then to have the biggest defeat that anyone can possibly think of. So I got a lot of experiences in this head through winning and losing championships. And I know what it's like to win the biggest of games and lose the biggest of games. And that's a unique perspective that a lot of people don't have. But that's just a small consolation prize, man.
I had to ask you one thing before you go, because you mentioned him briefly, but I mean, could you throw some shine on Junior Seau, who is an NFL legend?
Buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when Pete Carroll and Bo Pelini were here. He was my linebacker coach, and it was like I'd be watching Junior Seau in terms of how he played, and I loved the way he played, and I use it as an example for myself in terms of effort and just instincts, and to become a teammate of him, and to just have the impact on a team the minute he walks in the locker room. Just this guy had so much energy. One of my favorite teammates of all time, and probably the best linebacker of all time. I mean, just so blessed to being able to play with him. The whole buddy. That's a whole Junior thing, playing his ukulele in the locker room. There'll be another, never another.
Absolutely not. I loved that guy too. I played with him a little bit that 09 year. Tedy, thank you so much for coming on. I'm sorry we had to talk about this bullshit game. He requested it. He was
sorry we had to relive a New York classic.
Bro, it's important, man.
I'm sorry we had to meet under these circumstances, Tedy. Yeah. But
you can talk about the New England Patriots in so many angles, man. From controversies to victories to losses. I mean, there are multiple books about it. It's because the team was so impactful over so many years, and that guy sitting next to you right there, Jules, is a big reason why too. So love you, buddy. Good to talk to you.
I love you, man, and I appreciate it. And like I said, thank you for everything that you've helped me with. He's always came and talked to me, giving me words of advice and terrible times, great times, how to handle this, how not to handle this. I've seen his kids grow up. It's been it's been unreal, man. So and he's a fucking stud on TV. Thank you for coming on. You got any plugs for anything?
What's that?
You got any plugs for anything? You good?
Bro, I'm not here to plug. I'm here to talk to my boy.
That's my guy. That's my fucking guy. I love you, bro. Thank you so much.
All right, Jules.